When a first date ignored your boundaries, how did you make sure they remembered? I matched with this guy on a dating app maybe 2 weeks before this happened. His profile looked normal. Decent photos, had a job, wrote in full sentences, which honestly, at that point in my life, I considered a green flag. We texted back and forth for a bit, and he seemed fine. A little intense maybe, but I told myself I was just being picky. We agreed to meet at this rooftop bar downtown on a Friday night. I got there first, grabbed a table with a decent view of the city, and when he showed up, he was actually better looking than his photos, which was a nice surprise. We sat down and the conversation started okay. He was funny, easy to talk to, and I remember thinking maybe I had been wrong to feel weird about it. This might actually be a good night. Then the server came over, and before I could even open my mouth, he ordered for both of us 2 tequila sunrises. I stopped him and told the server I'd actually just have a vodka soda. Then I turned to my date and explained calmly, no big deal, that I don't drink tequila. I had a really bad night with it in college. It genuinely makes me sick now, and I just stay away from it. Simple, done. Not a lecture, just a fact. He looked at me like I'd told him I didn't believe in gravity. He said something like, you just haven't had good tequila, and waved it off like I was being silly. The server brought both drinks out anyway. I pushed the tequila sunrise to the side and flagged someone down for my vodka soda. No confrontation, no drama, just quietly handling it myself. Then he pushed the glass back toward me. I moved it aside again, still smiling, still trying to be normal about the whole thing. He did it a third time, and this time he picked it up and physically placed it in my hand and said, just try it. 1 sip, you're being dramatic. I set it back down on the table and looked at him and said clearly and calmly, I said no. He got annoyed, not explosive, just this quiet, simmering annoyance that was somehow worse than if he had raised his voice. He sat back in his chair, crossed his arms, and started doing this passive-aggressive thing where he'd be talking to me about something completely unrelated, but his eyes kept drifting to that untouched glass sitting between us, like I was supposed to feel guilty, like I was the problem, like I had committed some kind of social crime by knowing what I did and didn't want to put in my own body. I tried to keep the conversation moving. I asked him questions, laughed at the right moments, stayed engaged, but he couldn't let it go. Every few minutes another comment would slide in. I just don't get why it's such a big deal. My ex used to say she couldn't drink certain things and then she'd always end up being fine. I spent like $12 on that, you know. At some point I excused myself to the bathroom and stood there in front of the mirror just taking a breath, thinking about how much I did not want to walk back out there and spend the rest of the night defending a decision I had already made and had every right to make. And then I had an idea. I stepped out and caught our server in the hallway before he made it back to another table. I explained quickly. Guy ordered me a drink I said I didn't want. He keeps pushing it. I need this to be over. I asked him for a small favor. Take the tequila sunrise off the table, dump it out, and bring me back a glass of water. But in the exact same glass, same garnish on the rim. Make it look as close to identical as possible. He looked at me for a second, then nodded and said, yeah, I've seen worse. I got you. I went back to the table. My date was on his phone. A few minutes later, the server swung by casually, made the swap without drawing any attention to it, and kept moving. I waited until my date looked up. Then I picked up the glass, maintained full eye contact with him, and drank the entire thing in one long, steady go. He watched with this slow grin spreading across his face, this deeply satisfied, smug look, like he had just won something, like he had proven a point he'd been working toward all night. I could see him physically relax, shoulders dropping, leaning forward like we were finally starting the date over fresh. I set the glass down. He said, see, told you. Good tequila makes all the difference. I looked at him and said, that was water. He laughed like it was a joke. I said it again. That was water. I asked the server to swap it out while I was in the bathroom. I didn't drink your tequila. I was never going to drink your tequila. And the fact that you spent 45 minutes pushing me on something I already said no to, and then lit up like you had won a prize the second you thought I finally gave in, that tells me everything I need to know about you. He just stared at me. I grabbed my purse, put enough cash on the table to cover what I had actually ordered, and walked out while he was still sitting there trying to figure out what just happened. Never heard from him again, and that was perfectly fine with me.